The Lakers are 0-4, and no solution seems to be the right solution at this time, other than trying to make a trade and pull off a deal that would move Russell Westbrook for assets and pieces to kind of turn the fate of this team around, right? The problem is that one move for a couple guys very likely isn't going to save us, right? A deal for just Buddy Hield and Miles Turner is not going to save the day. One shooter, a big man, not going to save us, right? We need multiple components and multiple pieces. Very likely that will require a multi-team deal. The Lakers have explored multiple team deals before. The Hornets, there was reports that the Lakers and the Hornets were even exploring at one point 3 and 4 team deals. So I imagine sooner rather than later, the Lakers are going to continue to pursue multiple deals and even just, multi-team deals to try to turn this season around, right? And the Charlotte Hornets are a team that makes a lot of sense. They are in a position where their best player is currently out. They could decide to tank and go get Victor Wembanyama, although the Hornets do look pretty decent right now. So it just kind of depends on where they want, but you'd have some mutual beneficial deal, right? Lakers be taking on long-term salary. They would be clearing cap space. The Hornets get to go tank, and it's a mutually beneficial sort of concept, right? So the Hornets deal also provides wing depth, which the Lakers desperately need, and three-point shooting. Another deal is the San Antonio deal. And many people look at these two deals as the best deals that are currently available. Now, what if the Lakers could actually combine the Hornets and the Spurs deal, right? The San Antonio Spurs have on multiple occasions been willing to be that third team in a deal, right? You heard about it with Kyrie, right? That was a huge conversation. Like the Spurs were like, hey, we'll take Russ and try to work out some assets and stuff like that, try to piece things together. So what if you could do that? Now, for example, the Hornets deal, right? Very likely the Lakers wouldn't have to give up any first in that deal, right? Because you're taking on, let's say it's Terry Rozier, Kelly Oubre, and you get Gordon Hayward, right? Now, with that deal, you wouldn't give up any first round picks because you're taking on Terry Rozier's 4 years, $100 million. Gordon Hayward, has injury history, but he's got a multi-year deal at like $25 million a year, taking on so much salary, right? So you wouldn't need to do that. But the Spurs deal, a lot of these guys are expiring, right? Think of Jakob Poeltl and Josh Richardson and Doug McDermott, guys like that. Well, what if the Lakers could take kind of the best pieces from each deal, right? So like you could start with the Spurs deal. Now the Lakers could get a deal with Josh Richardson, right, as well as Doug McDermott. They'd also get a $21 million trade exception. They could use that $21 million trade exception to go fill in other guys. They could even take on, like if they wanted to go another route, they could take on Jakob Poeltl, right, and still generate about a $14 million trade exception, move both of those guys in a deal to try to go get, like, say, a Terry Rozier, Kelly Oubre maybe goes back to the Spurs to kind of piece players. Also, the Spurs have cap space to where they can absorb some salary. So the reason the Spurs are so willing to operate as the third team is because they have salary that they could absorb stuff. They're willing to take on assets. If you could work out a deal to where you don't have to give up first to a team like Charlotte, well, now you have those firsts to maybe potentially do a deal with the Spurs. And if you had to, you could include, say a Patrick Beverley, $12 million salary. Guys like that, maybe even package if you need to do salary filler like a Kendrick Nunn, or if it's a small salary, a Winning Gabriel, then you could waive, Matt Ryan if you need to, especially if you could get multiple pieces. Like imagine if you could get Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, and on top of that, go get, a Josh Richardson and Doug McDermott. Now you got 4 wing style players that could play multiple positions, that could shoot the lights out. The Lakers need a deal like this The Lakers need a deal, not for one or two guys. They need a deal for several guys. And so you could do a deal, generate a trade exception, then use that trade exception to go get Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier. If you need to add some pieces, you could add some pieces, add some components. You probably have to do individual deals with the Hornets for those guys, but you can. Especially with certain salaries, especially in the scope of a 3-team deal, you could have the trade exception go directly to the Hornets. Again, the Spurs have salary to where they could absorb some guys. Maybe the Spurs take on Kelly Oubre, who's an expiring contract, or maybe take on like a Patrick Beverley if you need to, and then maybe the Lakers take on Kelly Oubre. Like, you could realistically, between the Spurs and the Hornets, have like a 5-player deal for essentially just Russell Westbrook and maybe like a Patrick Beverley. Like, the Lakers could literally redo their entire roster. Again, imagine if you could get Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, and Terry Rozier. For whatever pieces you need, right? And again, you'd have to move off of several guys. You'd have to move off of a piece like a Patrick Beverley. Maybe a Kendrick Nunn. Oubre would probably go here. It's just whatever structure they would want to work out, right? The Spurs would probably want some, expiring contracts, or maybe, you send Patrick Beverley to the Hornets so that way they get an expiring deal. Stuff like that. You could finagle it to where you could literally end up with 4 different guys. That's the kind of deals the Lakers need. The Lakers need deals where you're basically combining 2 types of trades and getting several players. So to kind of put it all together, I would imagine Russell Westbrook goes to the San Antonio Spurs. The trade exception and maybe like a Patrick Beverley and maybe a Jakob Poeltl, some of that go to Charlotte. And then the Lakers would end up with, some combination of Hayward, maybe PJ Washington, if you could kind of work that out. Maybe San Antonio would take 1 first. Maybe you could work out other deals. But realistically, it'd probably be like a Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, and the Lakers would keep Doug McDermott, Josh Richardson. So when all is said and done, again, you'd probably have a Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, Gordon Hayward, and Terry Rozier, right? So you're getting like a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, and a guy that could play small forward, power forward, right? I think that would be a great deal because now you're not just getting one shooter. You're not just getting one player. Like, again, the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner trade is not going to say we need more than one shooter. This deal would also allow a lot of the guys on our team to go to a more natural role. We have a lot of guys right now that have to play beyond their comfort level, right? Got a lot of guys that are just kind of role players, but they have to play to a level of like a third option, right? And most of the guys are not third options. They're 5th, 6th, 7th options, bench options. Well, if you get a deal like this, you have a guy in Gordon Hayward, if he can stay healthy, he's a guy that could be your third option. Terry Rozier could be your third option. He's been the first or second option on teams before. He could be a third option. He's comfortable in that role, playing off the ball. They got LaMelo. He was comfortable playing off the ball, still able to thrive, right? So you have guys that could do that. Not just that, but if you get several guys, now you're in a more comfortable position to go get and move a Gordon Hayward and kind of weather his injuries, right? Because Gordon Hayward, I've said time and time again, I think Gordon Hayward would be a perfect piece. Problem is he can't stay healthy. He just can't. And if the big concern is if you take him on and he can't figure it out this season, then you're in trouble. But if you have 3 other guys that have came in that are still able to play that role and fill it in, you can kind of run the risk and weather the storm. Not just that, but you probably don't need as much out of Gordon Hayward to where, maybe you can, stave off the injuries, so to speak. So ultimately, I would love to see something like this. Go get me a Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, right? Go get me a Gordon Hayward and like Kelly Oubre or Terry Rozier. Again, Russ is probably going to San Antonio because they can absorb the most amount of money, get a trade exception going out. Kelly Oubre, maybe you send him to San Antonio or a Patrick Beverly or whatever, right? You have to add more salary than just Russell Westbrook, especially if you're the Lakers. Because again, I mean, you're getting, just between Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward, you're getting like $50 million. Or Spurs deal, like McDermott and Josh Richardson, they're only like $25 million combined or $24 million combined. So you'd have about $75 million, give or take, going to the Lakers. Russ could get you to about $56 million, but you'd have a trade exception. You'd have, somebody like a Patrick Beverly and Kendrick Nunn. Like Kendrick Nunn alone can, I believe, is like just shy of like Josh Richardson's salary by himself. But again, if you include like a Kelly Oubre going to San Antonio might have to take a couple guys. So San Antonio would get the picks in this deal. Where Charlotte, you're taking all their long-term salary. You're sending out, a trade exception that they could use, as well as like, a Patrick Beverly. Like I said, that's $12 million. You got to keep in mind, like Patrick Beverly can get you a pretty sizable salary, right? I mean, he could get you close to like 18 million with the 125 rule. So Lakers would need to get to about 60 if they wanted, say, Richardson, McDermott, Rozier, and Hayward, those four, you'd have to get to about 60. You'd have to get to about 63 million, 64 million, which you can do between like Russ, Beverly, and Nunn. And that's not counting like other components and pieces, right? So it is a deal that could get done. Will it get done? It's tough. I always say 3-team deals are nearly impossible. It's always something, but it's at least fun to explore and talk about and just have a discussion with. So as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What would you think of this deal? Would this be like the home run deal? Get like Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, who many people want. So basically, instead of, taking on like Jakob Poeltl from the Spurs, you're getting, a Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward. Or would you rather want like a Kelly Oubre instead of Gordon Hayward? Although I think they probably want something in return if that's the case. The whole deal would be, unless the Spurs are okay with taking one first, then you could move one first in the Spurs, one first in the Hornets. Again, the structure can get there. They can get there if they need it to. But again, is this something that you'd love? Is this something that you hate? However you feel, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below.